Aloha. Thank you so much for trying one of our lamp files. I'm going to burn through a tutorial here. It's a lot of information to get through. I'll do my best. If you have any questions or any problems, feel free to reach out to the email address that you can see here on the screen. All right, so most important thing when making one of these lamps is to use the correct file size. We've included files that will work for wood between 3.0 and 4.0 millimeters, everything in the eighth of an inch range. We usually use GS2, Glowforge, or Johnson Plastics Plus material, everything in the eighth inch range. All the wood from those companies, the pre-finished wood, should work with these files. It's a great idea to print out the kerf test piece that we included, the file we included with the lamp files. First thing I always like to do is check the thickness of the wood I'm going to be using with some calipers. So the material here is 3.12. We're going to round that up to 3.15. What I will usually do is minus about 0.15 millimeters to account for laser kerf. Might be different with your laser, so you'll have to check. But here I can see a good fit with 3.0. I want to make sure you're not going to use a file that's going to be way too loose, like that. And definitely not a file that's going to be too tight. Too tight will not work. Better to be a little too loose than a little too tight. So find your correct file size for the thickness of the wood that you want to use. These are all the parts you're going to need to put a lamp together. Clear acrylic to make the paper templates, the wood you want to use. So nice colored paper, shoji type paper, mulberry paper. Links to all these parts, the lamp parts, are down in the comments of this video. The files are sized for these specific parts that we get off of Amazon, especially this lamp base here. And we'll talk about that a little more when we're putting the lamp together. For gluing on the paper, you're going to want some kind of glue surface. Here's a ceramic tile. We use a tacky glue, and we use these rubber rollers to roll the glue on. And then to actually put the lamp together, we use this special super glue here. It's kind of a thicker gel super glue. And it's very nice to have some fresh razor blades as well. So this is kind of the trickiest part of this whole deal. These lamp bases need to be cut in order to fit inside of these lamps. I wanted to keep the lamps as compact as possible so they'd fit on Glowforge material. I use a bandsaw. I'm lucky enough to have a nice bandsaw, but this can also be done by hand with a hacksaw. It can be done with like a sandpaper wheel on an angle grinder, but something that has to be done. So very important to note that these files are all made with Inkscape. It's a free vector program. If you want to manipulate these files, you'll have to get Inkscape, either to do the manipulation or to do file conversions from Inkscape. These are all Inkscape SVGs. I don't do file conversions because these files are so specifically sized, and I'm worried that conversions might affect the sizing. So you'll have to download Inkscape if you don't have it. It is free. It's available for Windows and Mac. You can do your file conversions from Inkscape. Saving these files as a plain SVG will allow you to open them in AI. These files are sized for 12 by 24 material, which is to say a whole lamp will fit on one 12 by 24 sheet. So people like myself who are using RDWorks or Lightburn, these files are ready to go. Obviously you want to delete the excess information there. The little green tabs need to be a deep engrave, and I'll explain why when we're putting the lamp together, but they need to be a little deeper than a standard engraving. Otherwise, you'll have to just fiddle with settings. So if you are on a Glowforge, you're using 12 by 19 material, you'll have to use 2 sheets of material. I'll run through some settings here. So 1 sheet of material we used for your 4 panels, your 4 side panels. You'll want to use your cut setting, your score setting, and your engrave setting, but you'll want to adjust the engrave setting to be a little bit of a deeper engraving. for these side panels. And then a second sheet of material would need to be used for your lid parts, your bottom, your top. It's important to make sure that you understand that the bottom of your sheet of wood is actually going to be the shown face of your final product. So something to keep in mind. All right, and now we'll talk about putting these together. So use some clear acrylic to cut the paper template file that's included with all of these lamp files. That way you can see the material that you're going to be using as your lamp paper. We did link to the mulberry paper that we use. It's in the description of the video. But you can use any kind of natural paper that lets light through, or any kind of material at all that lets light through. Once you've got your templates cut, we're going to go to the glue up now. So all of those score lines we made, those are going to be the inside or the back of all these sheets. So I like to prep a couple of paper towels, a wet one, a dry one. I've got my tile for rolling glue. I'm going to put a little glue on that tile. We're going to start with our lamp lid here. So that inside scored mark, the big square, we're going to roll glue onto that inside square. Make sure you get full coverage. Try to be as tidy as you can. Once you've got good coverage of glue on that inside square, we're just going to put our colored paper down on that. Takes a little practice. It can get messy, but that's what the wet paper towel and the dry paper towel are for. Clean up your edges a little bit. I think most of us laser people are perfectionists by nature, so a little practice and it'll be easy to do. And so that's a finished lid panel. Set that aside. Going to do the exact same process now with the 4 side panels. So again, just making sure to get full coverage inside of that score mark that we made. And so this is why the way the files are designed, it's the back side or the bottom side of the wood as you put it in the machine that's going to ultimately be the visible face of the lamp. And so if you have a nice side of your material, you want to make sure that that's going face down in your laser machine. Alternatively, you can eliminate these score marks and just do all this by hand, but that only works for some of these panels. 2 of these lamp side panels have those deep engraved notches in them, and those have to be done and have to be on the inside of the lamp. So we'll get to that in just a second. So now we've got our panels glued up. We set them to dry for a minute. We're going to put the lid aside for last here, and we're going to start putting this lamp together. So you've got 4 notched panels, and they slide together. I want to make sure that little protrusion is at the bottom of each panel as we put these together. We're going to basically construct a box here. Pretty simple stuff. Now this is where it will really matter if you used the right file size. To be perfectly honest, the lamp that I'm constructing in this video was a mistake, and it is a little too tight. And you'll see that I struggle a little bit. I had it laying around, and that's why I'm using it for this tutorial video, but you can kind of see that it's a struggle to put it together. So it is important to use the right file size, and that does come with a little bit of practice. All right, so we're going to grab our lamp cord now, and we're going to string it through that one hole that's on the bottom of one of the lamp panels. push that cord through and pull about 6 inches through the lamp. Now here is our base piece that we cut with a saw earlier. I'm going to take that apart into 4 different pieces. I think I dropped a piece there. There we go. The base piece, the piece that we actually cut. Sorry, I caught this out of frame. Is going to slide onto that lamp cord. There we go, that's better. Going to use some needle nose pliers or some round nose pliers to curl the ends of that lamp cord. And now we're going to use some Phillips screwdriver to loosen those 2 socket screws. And here, of course, we are going to attach the lamp cord to those socket screws, making sure we get a very tight connection. Make sure that pigtail on the wire is fully seated under the screw and is held in very tightly by the screw. Again, takes a bit of practice, but after a couple of lamps, it's fairly simple to do. And now we're going to bring those 2 pieces of the lamp base together and seat the socket into the base plate. We're going to match those 2 base pieces together and sandwich the socket in them. It screws together. So these lamp files are sized specifically for these lamp bases. So that hole there would need to be adjusted if you were using some different size lamp base. And as you can see, that just screws on there and tightens everything up. Now, those deep engraved notches that we were focusing on earlier, those exist to hold the lamp base, or this square base plate, in the right position inside the lamp. So those 4 protrusions on this wooden base plate, they will fit into those 4 deeply engraved notches in the side panels of the lamp. I want to pull that cord through and flatten it down. What I do now is I use a little bit of this Starbond super glue, or sorry, Bob Smith Industries super glue, and I just secure that inside base plate to the sides of the lamp. Doesn't take much super glue. Then I'm going to put a little bit of super glue on the bottom edge of the 4 side panels of the lamp. Super glue has a tendency to haze if you use too much, so obviously it's your choice if you wish to use something different. I use super glue only because it's convenient and dries very quickly, but any type of glue would work here. As I mentioned, the particular lamp panels I'm using aren't sized correctly, so I'm moving off screen here for a second to force these together in a way that normally you would not need to, as long as you use the right file size. If that bottom piece, if you have a struggle getting that piece on, you can give it a little technical tap with a small hammer or similar device. But it shouldn't be terribly difficult. You might want to adjust your file size if you find yourself struggling to put these parts together. So you want to make sure that your side panels are seated well on the bottom piece. And at this point, our lamp is primarily put together, so we can tie up that cord a little bit to keep it neat. that's just something I do to keep it out of the way while I put the rest of the lamp together. Go ahead and install our bulb at this point. And then the last step in the process here is going to be to glue a couple of pieces onto the lid. So on the bottom of the lid here, it's very important to glue this piece on and make sure that it's perfectly fit within the outside score mark on the bottom of the lid. And this piece is going to be how the lamp lid seats itself onto the lamp. So if that's off kilter at all, then the lamp lid will not sit properly. So just be very careful here to make sure that you're gluing that piece on very centered. That's what that score mark is there to inform you. And then I always glue a second piece onto the top of the lamp lid. I do that entirely just for aesthetics. I think it looks a lot better. Again, I'm using super glue, so I have to press this down for about 15 seconds just to make sure I get a good seat. This top piece, there is no score mark to inform you in terms of centering it, so you just have to eyeball it. This piece is not entirely necessary, so you can make your own determinations as to whether or not to include it. It does really add to the aesthetics of the lamp, though. Again, same process. And with this one, you just want to be extremely careful to center it before you let the glue touch the lamp lid, so you don't have to slide it around to center it. Otherwise, you'll get glue smudges. And it is a little forgiving. It doesn't have to be absolutely perfect. The eye will make it perfect. And so at this point, our lamp is complete. So you can actually see, if you look at the lamp panels here, that they're flaring out a little at the top, and that's because the file size was too tight. So that is why you want to avoid the file size being too tight. So just something to keep in mind. Again, it's only because I'm using a scrap lamp here that I had laying around to make this video. So at this point, we are ready to test our engineering skills. Plug that in, and if you're using the kind of cord I'm using with a switch on the cord, and there you are. So again, check the comments of the video. You'll find links to the various parts that we used and the various glues and tools as well. I will also link to the company we used to get our colored paper. If you have any questions, email me. Thank you so much. Aloha.